Alright, so today we are working on a 2008 Honda Civic LX model, and this particular one have a drum brakes, which I'm not a big fan of drums. They're kind of a pain in the butt, and I'll show you guys why in just a little bit. The other models like the EX and the DX, I believe, have the disc brakes, which is much easier and a little cleaner. So this particular drum brakes, they just retain a lot of brake dust, and it can get a little messy and dirty. There's a lot of little springs, little parts. So it's definitely worth taking your time if you guys are doing this yourself to take some pictures or take a video of yourself, so you guys know where all the little tiny parts like springs and clips, how they all connect when you guys put it back together. All right, so let's get to it. So I'm having a heck of a time getting this thing off here. You can see that it feels loose, and I've tried taking a screwdriver and trying to pry it all the way around. Okay, if you're having a hard time getting your rotors off your drum here, go down to Home Depot and get yourself 2 of these M8 bolts by 1.25 pitch, and you basically just thread it in here like this and tighten it up. And the key here is you want to do this on both sides kind of equally. This is your anchor clip, and it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but that's okay. You can kind of see dangling right here. So this here holds the bottom of your shoes together. What I wanted to mention too is I also bought a kit here. This is a rebuild kit, so I can get rid of some of these old springs. But if you guys decide to use, go buy these rebuild kits, I'll let you know what springs you can throw away and what to keep. So you can throw that anchor spring away. Okay, the next thing we're gonna undo is this. This is your automatic tensioner. So basically what this does is that it automatically adjusts your rear brake pads. Because if you guys recall the old school way, you have to go in here every once in a while. When you go get a lube job, they would go in here and adjust your rear pads with a little dial in the back. Now this does have little star wheel adjuster, so you can adjust it manually. But once you get it set, you don't have to do it anymore. That's what this clip is for, and I'll go through that a little bit later. So you want to keep this. Okay, and then this right here, little copper or brass thing, this is your automatic adjuster, and we're gonna, where's my screwdriver, and this is, you got to keep this guy right here. So this basically every time you engage the reverse and your handbrake, this thing auto adjusts. Come on, there we go. And it's also a good idea before you guys start this project to take a picture, so that if you're not familiar with how to put this thing together, you have a good idea of how to put this thing back. All right. Okay, now we want to get this retainer spring. This goes from one end to the other, and it pulls the shoes in at the top of the cylinder there. So if you guys have like a needle nose vice grip, that would be really the best. But let's see if we can get it with this guy right here. These springs are really strong, so I'm not sure if I can even get it here. Let me see, be a little bit different here. So these are your retainer clips for your shoes, and you have this little pin right here, goes all the way through the back of the back plate. So this is where I was saying, if you guys have little spring loaded needle nose, this is where it's going to kind of come in handy. So you can kind of squeeze it to whatever diameter you need. Then you want to push in on the retainer clip, push in, and then turn this pin on the back side. Whoa, dang. Okay, so if you got a kit, you can throw away this retainer clip. I was hoping that this will, oh shoot. Okay, so it looks like this cylinder thing came out. What a bummer. So I've either got to rebuild it or fix it. Not sure right now. Let me see if I can pull it out. Let me try to grab it on an angle. There we go. Okay, let's try and give that a good pull. Oh, there we go. Okay, and then there's that shoe. So this retainer clip, or this retainer clip spring, not clip, a spring, you don't need this because it comes with our rebuild kit. Okay, and then this is your adjuster right here. So we're gonna pull this guy out and we're gonna service this, clean this up. This is the little star wheel I was telling you guys about earlier, and this is what adjusts automatically as you're using your brakes, your reverse, your parking brake. This will all of this gets adjusted automatically. So I'll go through that with you guys just here in a little bit. Okay, and then here is the other retainer clip for the shoe. Again, just kind of push in and turn this little pin 45 degrees and it should come right out. Come on. Okay, and we don't need that. And then here's the shoe right here. Okay, now for the fun part. Okay, so this is your parking brake right here. When you engage it, this thing gets pushed out to the rotor. So now this is really dirty. There's a horseshoe clip right here, and it's pretty much black. So I hope you guys can see this on the camera right here on this pin. So this is pushed in quite a way. So we're gonna take a flat screwdriver and try to open this. Now, if you guys have done many of these things, you probably stabbed yourself in the hand many times with a screwdriver, and it's no fun. Oh, okay, I think that did it. Okay, here we go. And then brake shoe didn't come with this little pin right here. You don't need to knock this out. You can just knock it out with a hammer or a wrench. You can just tap it out. Alright, so I think that this little cylinder is okay. I just got to put this back. And then most importantly, we've got to make sure that this rubber boot is not torn. And slide this rubber boot over the cylinder. There we go. Just like that. Make sure everything squeezes perfectly. Okay, so this is the first time. You guys want to make sure that there is no leak coming out of your cylinder. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pull these pins out because we're going to replace these with the new ones. So we can throw that away. So before we get too far here, we want to clean up our brake adjuster bar and these two clevis pins. So we got a and a B. So take your time and do this really good. You may need a wire brush. This is kind of gunked up in here. Your clevis pin here should spin on this thread really easy, and there's a little bit of resistance here, so we got to do a good job, and we may have to wire brush this. So let's see how this I'm trying to take it off here. Come back here with some antifreeze, or not antifreeze, anti-seize. And I'm using a by Permatex. This is really good stuff. Just add a little dab here on this thread and then thread it on. And this is a left-hand thread on the driver's side. Okay, and then go back out. Okay, just like that. And then you want to add just a tiny dab right here as well, especially if you guys live in a rust belt area. When you do this job, you don't want this thing, you know, all corroded, but more importantly, you want this thing to be gliding in and out automatically. Okay. Okay, and then there are 6 contact points here on the back plate right here. So if you guys are hearing a little bit of like squeaky noise, it's because this is probably dried up, and adding a little bit of anti-seize to these 6 contact points will keep your brake shoe gliding on the back plate smoothly, because your brake shoes actually ride. There's 1, 2, 3 on this side and a 1, 2, 3 on this side, and it moves back and forth like this. As the brake pad wears down, or as you're hitting the e-brake or the emergency brake, this thing goes out, and when you let it down, it goes back in. So if you're hearing a little noise, you probably need to come in here and add a little bit of anti-seize. Now, one thing I want to mention here about these brake shoes: when you buy a set, you get 2 on each side. The brake shoes for this is identical as far as the thickness goes and the width. So sometimes you have an inner shoe and an outer shoe, and one could be thicker than the other. And also the actual profile itself could be a little different. But in this case, they're all 4 are identical. So it doesn't matter which one you pick up. Alright, so if you guys recall earlier, we had to hammer this little pin out of the old brakes, and now we got to put this into our new brake. So I was saying earlier, if this is your first time putting these brake shoe together, it's a good idea to take a picture. Okay, so now remember this pin that we took out of the old brake shoe. We need to put in a new one, and we're just kind of getting it up here to see how this thing's going to go in. So this pin needs to go in this way, because the parking brake lever needs to sit on the back side. Just gonna kind of go like that. Okay, so let me hammer this in here gently. In our rebuild kit, we got a new horseshoe clip right here. So we're gonna slide this pin in here. Let me bring the camera down a little bit so you guys can see what's going on here. Now, for some reason, this thing did not have a washer. Not sure if it's supposed to have a washer, but in most cars I've done, or trucks, they do have these washers, but this one didn't. So we're just gonna put it back exactly the way it came in. Oh wow, this thing just kind of fit right in here without any effort. Usually this is a real pain in the butt. So that kind of makes it easy. Okay, and then come in here with a pair of needle nose, pliers, channel locks, and then squeeze the 2 ends together to lock in that horseshoe. Oh, there we go. That's in there really good right there. Okay, so the next step here, you want to take your anchor spring and get it on your brake shoe. So again, it goes on the very bottom, little hole at the very bottom of your brake shoe. You want to get that on there before you get the other shoe on. Okay. Let me grab my pin. And grab our little pin right here. Feed it through. And then make sure that the brake shoe goes underneath this bottom. There, like that. There we go. Okay. And then by putting the anchor spring on here first before you put the last shoe on, it helps line up your little clip here on your cylinder on both sides. So if your shoe doesn't look like this before you put the last retainer clip in, there's something wrong with your alignment on the shoe. So just keep that in mind. Okay, we're gonna bring our retainer clip in, line it up the best you can, take a plier and then push in really hard. There we go. Come on, a little bit more. Okay, make sure that tab is lined up parallel with that little notch on the clip. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so the next thing you want to put on is your adjuster pin. Now if you forgot and you forgot to take a picture, hope this helps you guys out. So if you guys recall that emergency brake bracket that's behind this shoe right here, you'll notice that this clevis looks a little bit different on each end here. So this one looks like a fork, and this one is like a little teeth is broken off. This goes on the outside, and this piece goes on the inside, and this is where it goes against the shoe right here and the parking brake bracket. Okay, so that's how you tell. And you just gotta feed this in slowly, kind of like this. You may need to spread this out just a little bit with your hand so you can get that pin in there, and then push it back, then slide it back in. Okay, so this is the most important part here. You want to make sure that this clevis right here on both ends is sitting in here nicely. So it should look just like this. If otherwise, you'll see a little or a big gap between the clevis and the brake shoe. Okay, so this is how it has to look, just like that. Okay, the next piece you're going to install is your auto adjuster pin. So there's a little, let me flip this around, hopefully you guys can see the little lip right here. So the little star, what do you call it, like a nut or bolt right here. Okay, when you spin it one way, it expands. If you spin the other way, it closes. So what this guy does right here, that little pin, is as you're braking, using emergency brake, reversing, this actually auto adjusts the stars so that your brake shoe will automatically adjust to the appropriate width of the rotor, always. So it's kind of cool little feature, and it's funny how this little clip right here does all that for you automatically. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so the way this is going to work is this little pin right here. It's going to go into this little hole, and this is always going to go on the shorter end of the clevis, near that little star bolt. Okay, so you're going to let me turn up the ISO here so you guys can see a little bit better. Okay, there we go. All right, so you're gonna slide it in there, and then that little pin back here, that's gonna go right behind this clevis, just like that. It just kind of sits in there. See that? And then let me bring the camera up a little bit closer here. Okay, and then when this is adjusted properly, which we'll do in just a little bit, that little notch on this pin should be resting just below that star bolt right there. So just FYI, you want to take this little funky pin, and it's shaped kind of funky, and it doesn't matter which way you put this in, it's the same. So what you want to do is on the little auto adjuster pin, you want to slide it behind right here. Okay, kind of like this. This applies a little tension on there, and then a little hole down at the very bottom here. That's where it's going to slide in. Oops. There we go. Just like that. Okay, now this is the important part here. So right now you can see that this auto adjuster pin, it doesn't quite line up with that star bolt. Okay, so that means that your brake shoe is kind of out of whack. So you want to just put both hands on both of your shoe and press it in. And when you push it in, I don't know if you guys saw that, that auto adjuster pin lines up automatically with that star bolt right there. So right now everything looks really good. And you need to do this anyways, because you'll find out here real soon that when you put your rotor on, this is going to be a super tight fit. Okay, let's give this a try. So once again, you want this the longer flat side here on this side where the auto tensioner bracket is, because otherwise that spring is going to interfere with that auto tensioner, and you don't want that. You want to make sure that this spring here, this long part, sits behind this auto parking brake adjuster. Oh, here we go. There we go, just like that. Okay. Okay, so we are on the driver's side rear, and on the back side there's a little rubber cap right here, and this cap is really gives you an opening to this parking brake adjuster, that little star wheel. So we're gonna go back here and we're gonna get rid of this clip real quick here first. Okay, so this little clip needs to get out of the way, and this is your ABS sensor. Anyways, once you remove that, you can access this hole right here, and then you can probably hear on the camera. So we need to expand this a little bit because this is well, we need to make it a little bit wider. But I just want to show you that, because once we put the rotor on, you need to go back there and adjust this shoe on the rotor. So the key to getting this rotor on here, you want to make sure that both sides right here are fairly even. Okay, that looks pretty good. And before you put your rotor on, you want to make sure everything looks like it's buttoned down. Make sure that the rubber boot on your cylinder is on there nice and snug. It's not leaking any fluid. Okay. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, this is going to be, this could be a little pain in the butt, because this thing doesn't always go on perfectly like this, for example. Okay. So when you flip it over, the shoe interferes with the inner side of the rotor, so you got to kind of come in here and bang it a little bit to get it lined up. There you go. Now, to know if you got the adjustment correct, that little star wheel I was turning, when you spin this, see how this thing is spinning freely? It shouldn't do that. So you got to come back here, get the screwdriver in a little hole. There we go. You can kind of hear it. Okay, each time you and you want to come in here periodically and just double check. And I'm turning the screws, I'm pushing the screwdriver downwards. There we go. Okay, a couple more turns. Okay. There, that feels really good right there. Okay, so we'll put our ABS clip back on, and that's all there's to it.